Supplementary questions.
Madam.
Yes,
Madam Chair, I would like to agree with most of my colleagues. Most countries, majorly Commonwealth parliaments, where Uganda is a sample too, prime ministers are students of government business. Are students of government business. I call it so because they get briefs from ministers on a daily basis in each sector of government. Lucky enough, Madam Speaker, lucky enough that in Uganda, Madam Chair, lucky enough in Uganda, they can appoint anybody to be a prime minister, even Macho. But in other countries, your IQ must be measured to the capacity that you understand. No.
My prime minister's IQ is very high. You get it, eh? My prime minister is very, very high.
Madam Chair, I've not attacked anybody, Madam Speaker. I've not attacked anybody.
No.
I'm just talking.
Can you sit?
Madam Chair, I've not attacked anybody, but I'm saying even Macho.
You sit.
Even Macho,
sit.
It is.
Can we get a middle ground?
Yes. Right, Honorable Speaker, I wanted to allay fears of colleagues that have had submitting. The proposal for oral questions actually takes care of the fear of one of the members that he talked about, that sometimes the Prime Minister comes
actually present in the House where the member is unable to vote through any of the voting methods specified under Sub-Rule 2. So, Madam Chair, in my view, the concerns of my sister are covered because you have the leeway to decide how the virtually present members can vote in case they can't vote by voice.
Thank you. Doctor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I want to agree with my brother Anthony, the Honorable Anthony Seno. But to add that maybe if it doesn't cause harm, Madam, we would at this time expressly state that in the case of voice voting, which is aye or nay, those attending virtually will vote electronically, so that there is an intermarriage whereby we are catering in totality for all those in attendance, because those in attendance include those in the House and virtually. So we would make that amendment, Honorable Chairperson, to provide for ayes and nays for those present here, but we quickly intermarry it with electronic voting. I so propose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Yes.
And I would like to thank the colleagues. That's why I'm talking of. The debate we are having now is actually the debate we went through in the committee. All these judgments, we had all of them. We differed on the interpretation of 96.3. That's where our interpretation was. To the majority, we thought that 96.3 provided a cure for the mischief the Honorable Kabanda was fearing. And this is what it says. The Speaker may, where necessary, designate a specific voting method for a member virtually present, meaning that members virtually present may have a challenge in voting. In the House, where the member is unable to vote through any of the voting methods specified in Sub-Rule 2. And one of those specified methods is voice voting. And our interpretation is to cure that mischief, the Honorable Kaba, because what she's saying is actually we all agree that people who are not here may have a challenge to vote. But that's why we have Rule 96(3). And to us, we didn't see any reason for the amendment. We thought the Speaker just invokes this particular rule and says, yes, I've heard this, but these ones, let me count. How many are they? They are 5. How do they vote? Then the ruling is made. That was our interpretation, and we didn't see the necessity for the amendment.
Thank you.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I have attentively listened to colleagues, and I want to allay their fears that this amendment puts into perspective the Rule 90, the one for
93.
voting. It just puts into perspective by saying, because the amendment reads, for avoidance of doubt. So we have noted that the Speaker can put an arrangement for members in virtual attendance to vote. We have noted that. So we're simply saying, for avoidance of doubt, a member virtually present in the House shall only form part of the quorum if the Speaker puts into place that arrangement. So it reads, for avoidance of doubt, a member virtually present...
Honorable Aisha, I don't want people to run away from their responsibility when there's a contentious issue here. Let people be there to vote so that they don't hide away. Let them attend, let them come and vote. If we are voting for Tojikwatako, let it be. Let them let people not hide somewhere and say, I'm going to vote virtually. No. Let people come and vote.
How do we, Speaker, how do we cure a minority here in the House pronouncing themselves of a matter through voice voting while the number complements the quorum is not in the House? To put into effect the rule that colleagues are quoting that takes care of people in virtual attendance, we need an amendment that says for avoidance of doubt, they constitute part of the quorum if they are going to vote in those specific terms. Otherwise, if they are not voting those specific terms, they cannot be part of the quorum.
You know, what you're trying to do is to infringe on the role of members to vote. That's what you are trying to do. Yes, Doctor.
Yeah, thank you very much. Final.
Now let me give Jessica.
No, I am saying a final submission from me. Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, it is very difficult and it will be very complicated for the presiding officer to mix the two types of voting, sound and then numbers. How are you going to mix them? The only way those who are attending virtually can be part of those who are voting in-house is when one system of voting is going to be adopted. And
so are you in for the amendment or not?
No, I am just helping you to discern how members can bring these ideas of mixing two ways of determining numbers.
Okay.
So that we can know that in the amendment, the presiding officer will need to institute a measure of voting that is universal for those who are attending virtually and those ones who are attending. Otherwise, if at all we are going for ayes and nays, which Honorable Isa says ayes and nays, because the sounds are quite different there, then it will be difficult to include those ones attending virtually in that kind of voting.
Right Honorable Speaker.
Jessica.
Thank you so much. I have listened attentively. One thing I have noted throughout my stay in Parliament here is that the presiding officers try their best to maintain quorum in the House. Whether voting through roll call or in unison when we say hi.
Gonzaga.
Yes.
Mukatuliki.
I want to concur with Mukatuliki with this rosary because he always speaks his mind. Madam Speaker, many times the Right Honorable Speaker, I mean Prime Minister, comes and reads responses to the oral questions. And they are always very long. But it is always also important to give the persons who've raised those questions to raise rejoinders, at least, because at the times the Right Honorable Prime Minister reads. Let's provide a little time at your discretion. And if it should please you, we consider that, such that the Prime Minister can harmonize with the person who asked the question and have an answer that is convenient. I thank you.
Madam Teacher.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I totally agree with Aisha's oral, the Prime Minister's Honorable Aisha's recommendation that we have totally oral questions during the Prime Minister's time. However, I have an issue with still the Prime Minister's time, and I am begging that we reconsider and amend somewhere that the Prime Minister needs to be giving us feedback on her commitments within a particular range of time. Because there are incidents where we ask the Prime Minister questions and she assigns them to particular ministers, and those assignments are never catered for. And then you have the same queries day in, day out. So can we designate the Prime Minister to her commitments and her minister's commitments within a particular period to be worked on and come back and give us feedback on whether they responded to those issues or not, so that we avoid members of parliament coming here lamenting all the time that they've raised issues to the Prime Minister during her time and the ministers never respond, thereby repeating the same issues during that time. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'm also here to concur with Honorable Aisha that let Prime Minister's time be for oral questions. But I also suggest that we make the written questions forwarded to Prime Minister, and we put here that in a month's time she should have responded back written to that very person who asked the questions. In 1 month's time, then it's forwarded to the pigeon hole, and the PA informs that Madam Honorable Nalwima, your response has been delivered in your pigeon hole, or please pick it from private. So that now it's entirely our time. Thank you.
Those are public questions. It shouldn't be private. Yes, Saroti.
Thank you, Right Honorable Chair. Right Honorable Chair, I would like to agree with my colleagues that whereas it's important that the Prime Minister's questions are given so that she can provide written answer. But Right Honorable Chair, the Prime Minister is the leader of government business. The Prime Minister should be understood as the Chief Minister to know substantially so much that is going on within the sphere of running of government. So it is important that in certain instances here, questions are asked of the Prime Minister and that they should be able to rise up and give spontaneous answers to some of the issues that the members would like to know. Because, Madam Chair, some of the problems we have is that the members raise questions that require answers that are based on the knowledge and wit of the Prime Minister. But because they are written so that they are later answered afterwards, the technical people go and write generic answers that are supposed to soothe the members of Parliament. Right, Honorable Chair, I want to agree with my colleagues that we have the questions responded to in two spheres, that those that require of the Prime Minister, just as she is here, to spontaneously get up and tell us what is happening, probably in Karamoja, or what is happening in Nsinjiro. Because as a leader of government business, A prime minister should have sufficient knowledge of what goes on in government. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Right Honorable, I agree with what he is saying, but sometimes there are questions whereby you need to investigate on them. You need information. Then you come here and you say, please give me some time. So if we go with what the Honorable colleague is saying, then you will end up postponing most of the questions. Can you wait for some time? Can you wait for some 2 days? Thank you.
Yes, Mehdi.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, what the Prime Minister has stated is also an answer. You raising up and orally responding that I don't know, I'll go and carry out investigations is an oral answer in itself. Therefore, what the members want, why there are Prime Minister's questions in parliamentary democracy, ours is a hybrid, is to check the following. 1, the alertness of the Prime Minister and the front bench. 2, coordination. 3, response to the nation in real time. And that is why it is designated time for you, so that you fit purpose. That is why when you come to Parliament to be approved in that position, those are some of the considerations we make. Is she alert? Is she aware? Is she knowledgeable? Now, as the head of government business, you must be knowledgeable in every corner of every government department. And if you're not, then you respond and say, Honorable Member, I clearly accept that matter touching this issue. I'm not enlightened, but I'll come back with an answer. That's also a response. But those that you ought to know, for example, if someone rose up and asks, Right Honorable Prime Minister, how many referral hospitals do we have? Do you really need to go back and say, I'll come back with an investigative report to tell you how many referrals we do have? That must be off cuff. No, I'm trying to give you the view, the rationale that there are some things people check from the Prime Minister to see whether she's up to date as the leader of government business with every department, with every ministry and governance of the country.
Thank you. Jessica?
Thank you so much, Right Honourable Speaker.
After you.
I put my questions to the Prime Minister to get update on actions being taken by government, but not testing the capacity of the Prime Minister. No. Therefore, I support the committee recommendation with an amendment
of the timing,
that let there be provision for supplementary questions so that it becomes lively. Then, to Right Honourable Speaker, there is an avenue that we are not utilizing, asking direct questions to the ministers. There are questions that we can straightforward present to the ministers. Right Honourable Speaker, those are the 2 proposals I have. Thank you.
We have a provision for supplementary questions on 48, Rule 48. Supplementary questions.
Madam.
Yes,
Madam Chair, I would like to agree with most of my colleagues. Most countries, majorly Commonwealth parliaments, where Uganda is a sample too, prime ministers are students of government business. Are students of government business. I call it so because they get briefs from ministers on a daily basis in each sector of government. Lucky enough, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, lucky enough that in Uganda, Madam Chair, lucky enough in Uganda, they can appoint anybody to be a prime minister, even Macho. But in other countries, your IQ must be measured to the capacity that you understand. No.
My prime minister's IQ is very high. You get it, eh? My prime minister is very, very high.
Madam Chair, I've not attacked anybody, Madam Speaker. I've not attacked anybody.
No.
I'm just talking.
Can you sit?
Madam Chair, I've not attacked anybody, but I'm saying even Macho.
You sit.
Even Macho, it
Sit.
is.
Can we get a middle ground?
Yes. Right, Honorable Speaker, I wanted to allay fears of colleagues that have had submitting. The proposal for oral questions actually takes care of the fear of one of the members that he talked about, that sometimes the Prime Minister comes and answers questions to members who are not even present.